Man, one hell of a way, Tommy, to finish off day one. What we saw in that main event, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Seth Rollins.
Moral of the story, I've been preaching it for a long time. You can't trust Paul Heyman. Come on now. Great story. I enjoyed WrestleMania. I felt a lot with all the push for all the stories. I think we got conclusion regarding everyone, and then there's enough follow-up to take you to Monday Night Raw and to SmackDown with respective brands. But overall, they told one hell of a story, and that's where we talk about moments, we talk about all this stuff, but it's the storytelling, and the match was really, really solid as well.
Mark, what did you think overall of what you saw yesterday at WrestleMania?
I think Paul Heyman ain't shit. Paul Heyman is rotten. What a dirty no good. I mean, you sell out the people that they help pay your bills. They there for you emotionally when you're down. And he legit. You know, normally we say this in jest. Oh man, what a low blow. He legit low blowed both of those guys.
Yep.
I mean, like, Seth Rollins should look at this situation and go, can I trust him? Not to kick me in the nether region.
All right, but Mark, I got to say this. Look what Paul Heyman did for Roman Reigns. Got him to the top of the mountain in the WWE. Look what Paul Heyman did for CM Punk. Got him in the main event at WrestleMania for the first time in his career. We'll have to see what he does for Seth Rollins.
So you're saying there's two devils?
No, what I'm saying is if you want somebody to get you to that next level, Paul Heyman is the guy to get you to that next level.
Okay, I see that, but you can sell your soul to The Rock, or you can sell your soul to Paul Heyman.
Yeah, two devils, just as you said. Yep. Bully, what'd you think overall what we saw yesterday?
Well, I'm still waiting for you to start off the show by giving me my props.
Well, we got a lot to get into, so quick intros for everybody, because there's a lot to talk about here on a Sunday morning. And it's Easter. Happy Easter. No happy Easter.
He has risen.
Yeah. Come
This
on.
is true. We have to give props to the man who kicked out of death at 2.5 and then rose.
Greatest comeback ever told.
Happy Easter to everybody who celebrates all over the world. But more importantly than Easter Sunday, how about the fact that I called it?
No, and you called it well over a month ago that Seth Rollins was going to make himself a Paul Heyman guy, and that's exactly what happened last night.
Now, I'm obviously kidding around with the whole I told you so, but they started to tip their hand, and I kind of saw the writing on the wall. What I was surprised at is how over the past 2 weeks, they made it as obvious as they did.
I hate to use this word, but I can't think of a better one. Maybe a little predictable what happened in that main event last night.
I think that now this is definitely Monday morning quarterback,
yes,
which I hate doing, but I have to do it in this scenario. Watching this whole entire story play out, seeing what they did over the past couple of weeks by tipping the cap or showing their hand a little bit to the possible relationship between Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins, I wish they would have scaled back a little bit over the past 2 weeks. It would have been more of a shock. Was it shocking the way last night happened? Yes. But I thought enough of us kind of saw it coming, or we did predict it because of what has been going on. And now, especially when Seth says to Paul, you owe me a favor. So it's like he's with the tribal chief, best friend of CM Punk, who's getting his favor, but now Seth says you owe me a favor. Guys, do you agree or disagree? I want to talk about the last shot. When Seth and when Paul were going up the ramp and they stood side by side right outside of the entrance, the entranceway by Gorilla over there, and they raised their hands and Seth raised the chair in the air. Seeing Paul and Seth side by side felt odd. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel like it belonged. It felt like a little bit of a force.
Interesting. I will say this. When I saw it, it's not a comfortable sight seeing those two guys together.
That might be a better way to describe it. Not comfortable.
Yeah, it just didn't seem comfortable. But I will say this, and then I want to get your take, Mark, and your take, Tommy. I thought that was one of the best performances of Seth Rollins' career last night.
He needed it.
What's that?
He needed it.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about not saying "I told you so." I said it 6 months ago that Seth Rollins, if they don't do something with him, that he's going to be slaughtered. That he needed a shot in the arm. That he needed something really big. And what was that? And we came up with a few scenarios, none of which were as big as to go to WrestleMania and win it. That would have been a little overzealous in our analysis. But the end result was fitting for him because you go all the way back to him and Cody. You go to Punk signing and him being, irate, and the best things in wrestling are the things that feel the realest because they are the realest. And then you look at the stuff that, every swinging Harry was beating Seth Rollins the last year and a half. So he needed this. He was on life support. And when they hit him with the defibrillator, he showed life. And they said, okay, well, he's still alive. With all the shit that we put him through, he's still alive. Let's see what happens if we give him an intravenous shot of winning at WrestleMania. And now let's see what happens.
And he's a Paul Heyman guy, Tommy.
Yeah, workhorse of the match, I would give it to Seth. He was taking the bigger bumps. He was doing the things. That he was setting up the bigger stuff. Roman was getting the big final move set. Everybody worked their asses off. The story that was told was a very, very cool story. Also, camera-wise, there was one specific point where when Roman and Punk were both down and you saw Seth across the ring, and I was just like, Paul's going to slide that chair in between the two of them. And I thought Seth would have just beat the crap out of both of them, but they paid off all these different things from the time of the Shield, even teasing the Shield stuff earlier with putting CM Punk through a table. So many callbacks. I mean, we're all WWE fans, but they paid back to the history of everything that was going on. But if you also think about it with the three men, Roman Reigns wasn't really a Triple H guy. He was a Vince McMahon guy. CM Punk was neither guy, and Seth Rollins has always been a Triple H guy. I mean, Triple H has fought for this guy, and this is also where we go to, hey, this is a Triple H creation. While Triple H is there, it was a great thing. I disagree with Bully about that visual. I liked it. Rollins he looked like Christ-like, and I know it's Easter, but he looked godlike. And with Paul Heyman, Paul Heyman's the devil on his shoulder. Does Seth Rollins need a manager? Does he need that? But Paul Heyman will bring stuff to him and add to his act, which is already great.
I got to agree with Mark on this one because Mark is right. Seth Rollins needed something. Last year, he felt like a third wheel, a fourth wheel. Up for most of this story and the build to WrestleMania, he felt like a third wheel. I agree with Mark. He needed some shot of adrenaline. Now he has it. Now, I would be surprised if on Monday Night Raw tomorrow, no matter what happens tonight, that Seth Rollins doesn't start that show on Monday Night Raw. Go ahead, Mark.
This is my first critical analysis of the pay-per-view. It was the only match where they didn't rush. They were allowed the time to sit and map out everything. They had time for the facials. They didn't rush to turn into something. My advice to every wrestler outside of the guys in that main event and girls, slow the hell down. And I know it's the pressure of WrestleMania is up on you. But you are doing yourself a disservice by rushing. You fumble over stuff. Stuff doesn't really set in. Take shit out. Don't want to get all your stuff in to the point to where you rush through something and it looks, it's WrestleMania. I don't want to see it. I want you to look like it's mad, like David Blaine did a magical trick. The wrestling is so crisp. That's my only complaint about the entire show.
I would say
they rush.
The same. I would take things out. The harder part, as both of you know, when you're wrestling in stadiums, the noise factor, where you're hearing your reactions, and maybe that throws some people off their game because maybe that move or that stuff didn't get the reaction. In the main event, they simmered, so they all got that reaction. But yes, I would say just in my head, 3 matches in particular could have taken stuff out and let what they did resonate more.
Yeah.
I thought when you look at crowd reaction, and there were times yesterday the crowd was dead. The opening match with Jey Uso and Gunther, surprisingly, the reaction that Jacob Fatu got when he beat LA Knight for that United States Championship. That was one of the biggest pops of the night.
Yeah.
When Mr. Popular LA Knight lost his championship to Jacob Fatu, and then the main event. There were some ebbs and flows. I'm going to be completely honest here. I thought the show was okay until the main event, and I thought the main event was fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it really was. And Bully, you always preach, like, what do you remember?
The last thing.
That's it. You remember the end, and that main event I thought was phenomenal.
Like you said, the show, I will go as far to say as the show was good, with the main event getting it up to that good level. And Mark, you're right about having the time, but they were going to make sure that that main event had that time because they needed that time, and other matches may have gotten cut from. And the whole idea behind slowing down, in theory, is correct, but slowing down at house shows is one thing. Slowing down at WrestleMania is a different thing. Guys and gals are not going out at WrestleMania to slow down because they probably don't have enough time given to them anyway. The idea is to make the most of what you do have. Not necessarily slow down, but take things out. There are certain things, if I were to go back and dissect any match that wasn't the main event, I would ask talent, why did you do that move right then and there? Why did you do that sequence, that spot, that move, that whatever? What did it get you in the story? How much more storytelling did you get from that? Or was it just a move or a spot for the sake of a move or a spot? That's what people can take out. Take things out. Don't necessarily slow down.
I want to get your reaction, Tommy and Mark, obviously. The one thing that probably surprised me more than anything from the show yesterday was how Gunther and Jey Uso started with the collar and elbow lockup. I mean, here has been a story where Jey Uso's brother was beaten in front of him to a bloody pulp. And they started that match off like a regular wrestling match. I actually thought if there was ever going to be blood, it would have been in that opening contest because that was the definition of a blood feud. Tommy, did it surprise you at all the way that match went last night?
Absolutely not. A solid lockup. I will now use this reference since you guys have been saying it. Dreamer and Raven locked up a lot for 3 years. Even though we had hatred for each other, we had intensity. Tommy Rich, Buzz Sawyer locked up a lot. You can get a strong lockup. I mean, I remember specifically times where you lock up and you roll to the floor, you fall out of the ring, and you're still in that lockup. A lockup tells a story, man. It's the basic move that could tell everybody, hey, this is going to be a fight. This is going to be a struggle.
Bully?
It's jockeying for position. It's very rarely do you see boxers coming out just throwing haymakers. Not everybody can be Tommy Hearns and Marvin Hagler back in the day, where for three rounds they just throw haymakers at one another. Even the most hated rivalries out there in boxing, they will still come out and they will jab, jab, jab. They will jockey for position, and that's what the lockup
Feel
is.
each other out.
Especially when you're wrestling a great wrestler like Gunther. I mean, think of Flair, Steamboat, Flair, Ricky Morton. After all, they will lock up. The lockup and a great lockup tells the story. Ricky Morton and the Midnight Express, Bobby Eaton would start off with the lockup.
The very first thing they see is that lockup.
Hogan Savage.
Is that lockup. And you want it to mean something. You want the people to be able to boil before you lock up. You want to stand across from one another. You want to mirror
Just
one
stare.
another.
I could have seen them just staring at each other, just posturing that.
Yeah.
I want to punch your ass in the face. I want to,
and the people can feel that.
Yes.
And when the people feel that, Dave, just the standing there right before the lockup, that's when they start doing with their feet. They start bouncing their feet on the front, and they start clapping, and they start getting all pumped up and energetic. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you locked up, and what do the people do? Boom. They pop, and you've gotten a pop out of the lockup.
And the lockup, a solid lockup, sets the tone, and that set the tone for WrestleMania.